Today we're talking about comparison because, man, if you clicked on this channel, if you clicked on this video, you might be comparing yourself to others again, dude. And we know that's a big no-no. But it's okay. It happened. I've done it too. You've done it. We've all done it. And really, it's easy to fall into this because it's like we kind of get into like our own self-improvement routine, right? You know, we start doing well for ourselves, and then eventually we want to check up on how we're doing. But the way that we're accustomed to checking up on how we're doing is to compare ourselves to others, which is a terrible idea. It's always going to make us feel terrible no matter how good we're doing, you know? Like, because, dude, even if you are like a multi-millionaire living in like Bali or whatever, like, there's always going to be like a bigger multi-billionaire that's like more jacked than you, you know, has a cooler car, whatever, you know, lives in a cooler location. And it's a never-ending rat race. This is what the Buddhists call samsara, you know? It's like there's always going to be someone you can compare yourself to, you know? For me personally, the way this affects me is I took a pretty unconventional path, you know? I dropped out of college and I started like a bunch of businesses, did like a bunch of trial and error basically. And so as I was seeing my classmates from, you know, high school, middle school, like going to college and graduating college, they were getting instant feedback on their effort. Their effort was being instantly rewarded, you know, by like, oh look, now you have a diploma. Look, now you have an entry-level position at such and such company. Look, now you have this, now you have that. And for me, it was very much not like that at all. For me, it was very much like there's very high highs and very low lows. And there's like a bunch of peaks and valleys and such, you know? So because my path was so non-linear, like when I was on a high, this comparison would kind of serve to like reinforce my ego. It wouldn't even make me happy that I was doing better than some people. It would just reinforce my ego that like, yeah, like I'm doing so good and I'm on the right path and whatever, you know? And then when I was doing bad, when I was doing terrible, I would think like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing with my life? Like this is horrifying. Like what if, you know, like, and I would just start being ridden with anxiety because everyone else was getting all of these magnificent results and I was just here like, what? Like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know what I'm doing. And that's the thing, nobody knows what they're doing, honestly. If you could sum up the whole compare yourself thing to one line, it's nobody knows what they're doing, you know? So no point in comparing yourself. Because that's the thing, nothing good can come out of comparing yourself to people. Nothing good, you know? Every time I've ever compared myself, it's always been a negative, you know? The only person that you can compare yourself to, or it would be like a positive, is just your previous self. Because, for example, for me, right? It's like, I've been going to the gym for like a lot of years, you know, like 5 years. And if I compare myself to like, you know, ex fitness influencer, then I'm gonna feel terrible because it's like, oh wow, like I don't know, this influencer like benches more than me, or like they look more jacked than me, whatever, you know? It even hurts saying that. But if I compare myself to just my previous version of myself, where I was like all like skinny, I was like a rail, I'll put like a little transformation here. But if I compare myself to myself, then I can be like, wow, like I've done such an incredible job with my fitness journey. Like I'm so grateful to have gone on this, and like, you know, only positive emotions come out of it. But if it was comparing myself to someone else, it would be an absolutely negative thing. The thing about comparing yourself to others is that it's a very subtle thing that sometimes you don't even notice that you're doing. So let me show you how to know if you're comparing yourself to others, you know? First and foremost, are you feeling like a little bit down? Are you feeling like the thing is, you've got to know what emotions are associated with comparison, you know? The emotions that are usually associated with comparison for me are worthlessness, this feeling of going nowhere, you know, this feeling that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, this feeling that I'm not going fast enough. It's like, it's always based on like timelines and trajectories, you know? Like, for example, in fitness, you may think like, oh my gosh, I should be benching like, I don't know, 315 already, and I'm only doing 275, you know? You may think, oh my gosh, what a terrible tragedy. But realistically, like, do you only think that you should be benching 315 because like your best friend's hitting 315, or because you're comparing your trajectory to the trajectory of others? Are you comparing your rate of progress to other people's rate of progress, and then like thinking you should be progressing at the same rate? Not everyone's going to progress at the same rate. Not everyone's going to bench 315 at the same time, you know? Even beyond benching. It's like, this goes with anything, with any area of life. You can say just life in general. In life, such and such person has progressed more than me. Such and such person, I don't know, maybe they have a better job than you. Maybe X or Y. It could be whatever. The point is, it's always like, you know, you're comparing yourself when you think that you aren't where you're supposed to be. You feel worthless because you feel worthless. You don't feel good enough, you know? These are often a result of comparing yourself, you know, thinking that you're not going fast enough, you know, thinking that you could be doing better, because usually you think, oh, you could be doing better because such and such person's doing better. In reality, look, dude, you are you. This other person is them, and you are you. And this is why comparing yourself is useless, and it makes no sense whatsoever, you know? Obviously, look, our brains are susceptible to falling into these mental traps or whatever. So, like, this is not to shame you for having compared yourself at all. This is just to say that comparing yourself is useless. You know, you may have like some productivity entrepreneur gurus online tell you that you should compare yourself and that you should beat yourself up because you should be doing better, this or that, whatever. And look, man, you're not gonna get the work done. Like, look, let's say you fall into this like productivity entrepreneurial route, right? You're not gonna get the work done if you're constantly comparing yourself than if you're just happy with where you're at, you know? Because if you're constantly comparing yourself, then you're doing everything for other people. You're doing everything just to be better than other people. You're not doing it for yourself, you know? If you're doing it from such a place, then you're doing it from a place of anxiety, you know? But if you do it from yourself, if you do it from a peaceful place, then good things can stem from that, because it's like the seed is properly watered, you know? You're like watering your seed with like water instead of like fucking Mountain Dew, you know? Like, and you're a lot less likely to self-sabotage that way, because like the reason for why you're doing these things stems a lot deeper, because it's you, you know? You are the only person that's ever been with you your whole life, and you are the only person that's ever going to be with you your whole life, you know? So that stems a lot deeper than like, oh, you're doing better than like Jenny from high school, because that doesn't matter. And at a deep enough level, you know you don't care about Jenny from high school, you know? So when things get hard, it's likely that the need to be better than Jenny from high school is not going to carry you as far as the need of yourself to be better for yourself is going to carry you. You know what I mean? And this is why comparison is so useless, is because, one, it's not a good enough motivator. No matter how you put it, it's not a good enough motivator, you know? Number two, if you were to take a more spiritual perspective, it's like, if you were to take a more spiritual perspective, it's that everyone is exactly where they are supposed to be, you know? You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Look, everyone's path is different, you know? Some people's lives on earth will be defined by their career. Other people's path on earth will be defined by their family. People's paths will be defined by different things, you know? And so almost unfair to compare yourself in that way, because you don't know, like, you may be comparing your greatest weakness to somebody else's greatest strength. You don't know. You literally don't know, you know? It's like if you were comparing yourself to like Steve Jobs, for example. You were thinking, oh my gosh, like Steve Jobs, like he has such a better company than I do. Like, oh my gosh, like I wish I was as good as Steve Jobs. But like, what if Steve Jobs, listen, I haven't read his biography, so I can't speak on it. But what if he didn't have the greatest family life and you actually have like a bomb family life? You know, what if he didn't have the greatest social life, but your social life is pretty great? What if he wasn't that peaceful, but you are actually pretty peaceful? And so if you were to add up every area of your life, you'd actually be doing a lot better than Steve Jobs. It's just that you're looking at the one thing that he's got and thinking, why don't I have that, even though you have everything else, you know? It's like, comparison extends to every area of life. And in this sense, it's pointless, you know? Because also, the only thing that you see from people are the very best, you know? You don't see people's everyday lives. You don't see them crying at the restroom of their workplace. You don't see them crying at the restroom of their work. You don't see them like in these truly hard, devastating times that they're going through. You only see them when they're on vacation. You see them with their shirt off at the gym. You know, you see them when they're doing good. You see them when they bought a new car. You see them when they got a promotion. You know, you're only really there for the good. And so when your life takes a more natural path than the path that Instagram shows you, because Instagram is only going to show you the things that Instagram promotes, obviously. And Instagram is only going to promote the things that keep people on the platform, which are usually these more spectacular things. Like, I bought a new car, I got a promotion, I went to Bali, etc. So you have to be okay with your life taking a more natural path, because everyone's life is taking a natural. Not only that, you have to realize that there is no path. You are the path, okay? This is something that's crucial. There is no set markers of, oh, by 20 you should have such and such savings, by 30 you should have such and such job, such and such accomplishments, such and such properties. That's all BS. That's made up by the internet, by like gurus. That's made up by like people trying to get views on YouTube. That's not real. There's no one way to go about life. None. There's predetermined paths for your career, but not for your life, okay? You may think like, oh, the path is so certain because you go to school, then you go to college, and then you get a job, and then you die. You know, you may think like that's the path, but really that's not a path. That's your career path, you know? That's your education and career path. That doesn't have to be your life. You are the path. You dictate the path, and the path is dictated by what you like and your interests. So for example, let's say you are a musician, and let's say you're like a very good musician, or actually no, for the sake of argument, you're like a pretty mid musician. But like, let's say you love music and you practice like so much. You practice like 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and you just grind at it nonstop, you know? You have a part-time job instead of a full-time job, just so you can keep practicing, keep going, and you one day have bigger dreams, you know, that hopefully music can take you there. It's like, dude, that is a noble aspiration, okay? I'm not gonna talk down on that. I'm not gonna say you shouldn't do that, you should start a business instead or whatever, because one, I'm not a guru, I'm not trying to sell you anything, and two, I'm not anyone to tell you what to do with your life, you know? So it's like such a person, their path would be defined by music. Their path would be a lot different than somebody who didn't really have any passion, than somebody who just wanted to make a good amount of money and leave it at that. Like, maybe for them, they didn't really care about their career, didn't really care about expensive vacation. They only really want like a good family, and that's that. That person's path looks a lot different than your path, or the musician's path, or the artist's path, or anyone's path. There's an infinite amount of paths because there's an infinite amount of people, you know? And so you have to realize that you are the path. You are exactly where you are supposed to be because this is where you have led yourself to. And if you're not happy with where you want to be, then you will lead yourself out of where you are, okay? But realize that you are the path. There is no milestone. There is none of that. That is made up. So yeah, please understand that, because that is going to clear a lot of your anxiety about, oh my gosh, I am such and such age and I haven't blank yet. I haven't accomplished X yet. It's going to clear up so much of that because you realize that's all arbitrary. That's nonsense, you know? At most, it's based on this idea of the person who does take the traditional path, that, you know, gets a job right out of college, completes college in like the standard amount of time, etc. But if you're not that person, that's okay. Very few people are. And not only are very few people that person, but also that's not to say that that person is the gold standard, because there's a lot of people doing better than that person. I hope that sat well with you. And once you really internalize this idea, then comparison becomes pointless, because you realize nobody's doing better than you, nobody's doing worse than you. People are just living their lives and you draw your own conclusions. It's like if you were to really sit with yourself and your thoughts and like let them run their course, you would think you were crazy. And this is not just you, this is everyone. So, but you really would. You would think that you were crazy because you would look at a picture of someone and then create a whole narrative in your head from that picture, Or you would think, oh, I know this person's yearly salary. And just from that information, you'd create a whole narrative about how this person is better or worse than you or whatever. But you realize that your salary is only one aspect of who you are as a human. It's only one aspect of how you are doing as a person. It's like there's so much more than just a salary, than a vacation, than a picture on Instagram. There's so much more than these things. And so you need not compare yourself to these people because you are the path. You are on your own path. And man or woman, I really hope that you internalize what I'm saying, because really, like, comparison breeds so much misery, and it's so common nowadays to be constantly comparing yourself. And a lot of people, that's just their normal state of being, just constant comparison. And some people can't see out of that. They can't see a perspective greater than that. They can't see how dumb that is to live your life only comparing. Like, that's ridiculous, And so I really hope that I've made my message clear of how ridiculous it is to compare yourself. And I really hope that this helps you to get out of this like misery that it puts you in. Because wherever you're at, whatever you think about the place that you're at, it's okay, because this is where you're at. This is part of your life, okay? And your life story is going to take many more twists and turns. If you're not happy with where you're at, just know it's temporary. No, it's a fleeting moment, like everything. So don't get hung up on these tiny little comparisons. Don't let one picture that someone else posted on Instagram that you looked at for 5 seconds dictate the rest of the course of your life. If I put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them in the comments. I always reply. Have a blessed day. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye-bye.